Hello YouTube and welcome to the nation of free to play. I'm Mr. Mondstadt and look who's back. So you decided to come back to Genshin for Snezhnaya, You stopped playing a while ago and now you're wondering whether Ahatham and Teyvat are still top tier damage dealers and who you should pull for entering Snezhnaya. Or you're a loyal subscriber who watches every video, in which case you're amazing, thank you. Anyways, if you're interested in what changed in Genshin, what the last and the next meta looks like, and how to navigate this game in 2026, stay tuned. First up, I don't know when exactly you decided to take a break from Genshin, but I assume you are aware of the core mechanics of the game, the 7 elements and their reactions, what Resin is and how to use it, and so on. If you need a reminder of these topics, check out my Genshin Impact Beginner's Guide and then come back to this video. Alright, I will briefly go over all the changes of the game really quick and then focus the majority of the video on what units are good value for FTPs and what you would need to focus on if you want to clear all forms of endgame. First up, story. No spoilers, but know this. Nod-krai's Archon quest was, in my opinion, by far the best one so far, and generally the writing got a lot better, so I do recommend you catch up to the story. I would also advise you to do so in chronological order. Yes, you can quick start the latest quest as well, but you will miss a lot of context and nuance, so just do one act after another, from the start of Mondstadt all the way to the end of nod-krai. Second, the Gacha. Not too many new things since last year, but generally, if you lose multiple 50-50s in a row, you increase your odds on capturing radiance. That means you would have lost your 50-50, but your loss will be converted into a win instead. This is pretty rare and most likely to happen after 2 or 3 losses in a row, so it should not occur that many times on FTP accounts, hopefully. Next, the Chronicled Wish banner. In order to rerun older units more regularly, Hoyo introduced the Chronicled Wish banner. Here, a bunch of older 5-stars, usually from the same region, but right now we have a different one, are featured together with their signature weapons. The pity is 80, not 90, and you select a path on a character/weapon you want to obtain. The character and weapon wishes are counted separately, just like on a normal banner where the weapon banner is also counted separately. However, instead of losing to a standard 5-star, you can lose your 50-50 to any of the featured units or weapons. So when I pulled on the Inazuma Chronicle back in the day, I could have lost to Ayato, Yaemiko, Ayaka, Ito and so on. Luckily I won and got you and Mia, but you get the idea. However, it is not a classic 50-50, but a fate point system. So, if you lose, you get a fate point and your next 5-star is guaranteed. But, just as on a normal weapon banner, this fate point will be lost once the banner ends, meaning you have to get your desired unit or weapon now, or your guarantee will be lost as well. Also, if that was not clear already, the Chronicled Wish pity is independent from the normal limited banner pity and weapon banner pity. TLDR, you should basically never wish on a Chronicled banner for meta, as these units are old and usually worse than newer 5-stars. Yes, sometimes Hoyo gives them buffs, as happened with Yaemiko right now, but still, I think there will be better stuff coming down the line. If you want more detailed advice on who to pull, then hit that subscribe button, as I will make a who should you pull video after every Genshin livestream. Also, you can now get free constellations for some 5-stars from a multi-week event in Genshin. To Temper Thyself and Journey Far is a 12-week long event that rewards players who do their dailies and spend their resin every day. Basically, you have to do your dailies and spend at least 120 resin for 5 out of 7 days a week. And you have to do so for at least 8 out of 12 weeks to max out this event. At the end, you can choose a free constellation for 5-star. However, you cannot get a new 5-star, you have to own the character already and get their C1 for free. Also, you cannot choose the same 5-star multiple times, so once you got the constellation, that's it. Alright, that much for the gacha changes. Next up, let's talk about resin spending. I do have a detailed resin guide on my channel as well, where I cover everything in more detail, but generally not that much has changed. The resin cap is 200 now instead of 160 from earlier, and one condensed resin is worth 60 resin instead of 40, and the daily farming restrictions are still there, don't worry, but it improved a little bit. Every time the banners change, you can farm any weapon and talent domain any day of the week for 7 days straight. And after that week is over, the daily restrictions are back to normal. But since the banners change every 3 weeks, for 2 out of 6 weeks of a patch you can farm whatever you want, whenever you want, so better than nothing. And lastly, the way we farm artifacts changed. If you want to be as efficient as possible, you should farm artifacts for 10 days straight during the ley line outbreak of Stygian Onslaught. Excuse me, what? Stygian Onslaught? What is that? Great question, I'll get to that in a second. For now, it is a new endgame mode, and for 10 days after it opens, you can farm any artifact domain in here. You want to spend at least 1200 resin within these 10 days to get a rare item called Dust of Enlightenment, and this feather allows you to re-roll a fully leveled 5-star artifact, so use them wisely. As if that was not enough reason, for every 120 resin you spend in Stygian Onslaught, you get one extra 5-star artifact for free. And this adds up to quite a few free artifacts, so farming them this way will save you time and resin. Also, we can craft artifacts in Genshin now and can even select 2 substats. For that you need Sanctifying Elixirs, another rare item that you can get by either sacrificing fodder or clearing the higher difficulties of Imaginary Theater, another endgame mode. And with 4 of these elixirs you can craft 1 on-set goblet, where you can choose the main stat, as well as 2 substats, so probably crit rate and crit damage, and 2 of these substat rolls are even guaranteed to go into the desired substats, so basically it should be way faster to complete a full build with the crafting and reroll options we have now. That's the most important stuff on resin changes, so let's finally move on to the endgame. Genshin has 3 endgame modes that reset on a regular basis and reward you with primogems and other useful items. First, there is Spiral Abyss. Abyss has not really changed in terms of how it works. It resets on the 16th of every month, and there are still 12 floors and a maximum of 36 stars. And the max rewards are 800 primos per month, so far so good. The second endgame mode is the Imaginary Theater. This one is not really new anymore, so if you don't know what it is or how it works, go check out an in-depth video on that. In short, it resets on the 1st of every month and always features 3 elements. You can only play characters of these elements and need to come up with teams as you play, as you won't have all units available from the start. To make up for that, you can buff these featured reactions so that you can defeat the enemies even without the ideal team comps. How many fights/acts you have to fight and how hard these bosses will be to defeat depends on the difficulty you choose. However, in order to choose a higher difficulty, you need a minimum number of units of the featured elements on your account, and they have to be at least level 70. For the highest level, Lunar mode, you need at least 28 characters to enter. Every theater season you will get 6 starting units and can invite 4 special guest stars who are not of the featured elements, and Lunar mode rewards you with 1000 primos, and if you get all stars as well, you can get up to 2 Sanctifying Elixirs, so the item you need to craft artifacts. And lastly, the latest endgame mode, Stygian Onslaught. Stygian Onslaught was introduced about a year ago and features 3 bosses that you need to defeat within a certain time limit. The good news is, the 450 primos you can get from this endgame are rather trivial to achieve. For that, you only need to clear difficulty 3, aka hard mode. You can reuse characters for that one, or even do it in co-op and let you get carried by a stronger account. Also, as mentioned already, for the first 10 days of Stygian Onslaught, you can spend resin in here to farm artifacts. And hard mode is enough if you want to do that. Speaking of first 10 days, Stygian Onslaught will always be released 8 days after the start of a new version. So for Mondstadt players like me, on a Wednesday. Now, if you care about the reroll feathers for artifacts, let me cover the higher difficulties, Menacing and Fearless. You can get 1 reroll feather as a reward for either difficulty, and while Menacing is still rather doable, the Fearless level is pretty dang tough. The 3 bosses have special mechanics and way more HP, and usually still a certain character or team core. Again, I try to make a video on my Fearless clear every version, so keep an eye out for that. If that is still not enough HP for you, there's also the Dire mode, which usually doubles or triples the HP of Fearless. Personally, I cannot clear Dire on my account, as having constellations and or signature weapons is basically required. However, for the Dire clear, all you get is a limited time weapon skin collection that will go away once the next Stygian releases. The new meta measurement is typically the Fearless mode of Stygian, so lots of tier lists and evaluations are made with that endgame mode in mind. And before I talk about the last and next meta course in Genshin Impact, we have one more new endgame mode, so to speak. This one does not give you primos and does not require any characters though. It is called Miliestra Wonderland. This is a bit like Roblox within Genshin. Players can create their own minigames in here and we can play all of them if we want. You can also pull for outfits for your avatars in here, but generally I'm not the biggest fan, so if that is something you want to know more about, I recommend you explore it for yourself. User-generated content did give us the Genshin DPS test dummy though, where we can finally test our team's damage output. Definitely the minigame I've played the most in the last year. Alright, and now finally the part many of you have been waiting for, I assume, the state of the meta in Genshin. Oh boy, how do I start? Maybe with a disclaimer. The following opinion is pretty harsh and might not be what you want to hear. I'm not the biggest fan of the state of the game either, but it is what it is. So if you care about clearing all endgame modes and getting all primo rewards, this is what you need to know. If you are less fixated on these things though, then you can also ignore my advice. Pull who you like, the only challenges in Genshin are the endgame modes, so if you don't care about them, you should be good. For everyone else though, this is the harsh truth. First, new is always better. The power creep in Genshin is really fast at the moment, and no, units from Fontaine or even earlier are no longer matter. Even Natlan units are struggling more and more to clear the hardest forms of endgame. What dominated last year is the so-called lunar meta. In nod-krai, the 3 reactions Electrocharged, Bloom and Hydro Crystallize got a new variation to them called Lunar Charged, Lunar Bloom and Lunar Crystallize. The enemies of Abyss, Theater and Stygian strongly incentivize you to use these reactions. The downside was that old characters could not trigger these reactions. You needed certain new nod-krai units to unlock these, and not only any units, no, it had to be limited 5 stars. Characters like Flint, Inefa, Lauma, Nefer, Zebai, Linnea and of course Columbina gate-kept these reactions, and no other character in the game, not even the Traveler themselves, could do anything about it. The second harsh truth is, you no longer pull for characters, you pull for teams. While Hoyo always has been giving us units that synergize with one another, things really have changed. While Alhaitham wanted Nahida and Mavuika wanted Zilali, the nod-krai DPSs need their 5-star supports. It is like Skirk and Scoffier. Flint needs Inefa, Nefer needs Lauma, and Zebai, well, she wants Linnea. She's actually a bit of an exception though. However, all 3 lunar cores also want the Archon character Columbina, and some of them want a C6 4-star on top of that. So the meta top teams look like this: a new 5-star DPS, a new 5-star support, the 5-star Archon and a C6 4-star. So getting only a DPS because you like them will not do in terms of clearing hard endgame, as their damage is locked behind another unit. Now, the lunar meta is not the only meta Hoya gave us last year. There's also the so-called Hexerei meta. For that, the devs even buffed some older characters like Klee, Razor, Fischl, Albedo or Mona, but are these part of the best Hexerei teams? Well, if you want to know more about this dual meta approach, check my video on that topic. The strongest Hexerei DPS in Genshin is Varaka. The Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius is not as good as the top Lunar teams, but pretty close with his signature weapon. What does Varka's team look like then? Well, Varka, a limited 5-star DPS, Doran, a 5-star support, Nicole, another 5-star support, and C6 Prune, a new 4-star. So that does not look much different from the Lunar meta in terms of investment, and you start to see a pattern. Harsh truth number 3. You can't pull for everyone without spending money. This is nothing new, but you really need to plan ahead your pulls and save for the right 5 stars. With knowledge of a top meta team composition, you need to plan to get not 1 but up to 3 new 5 stars. So, getting 2 lunar damage dealers is probably gonna be tricky already, unless you have a lot of pulls saved up. However, there's some silver lining. The supports are still good on their own. While I would not advise you to get Flints, Nefer and Zabai, getting Inefa, Lauma and Linnea might not be that bad of an idea. That's at least what I did. I got all the Lunar 5-star supports, the Archon Columbina and one of the damage dealers, Zabai. And I was good with all the shill Hoyo threw at me, because I could cover all the requirements as I had all the supports. So in short, supports are your bread and butter, the DPS is a luxury pull. Harsh truth number 4. Reruns are a myth. In Genshin, rerunning units are almost never worth getting anymore. If a character has their second rerun, they are never a good pull. At this point, you missed out. Move on. The meta is over and the new one is already here, so invest in the new one, not the old one. And yes, this counts for Archons as well. The first rerun can still be worth it, depending on how fast it comes around. But after that, that's it. So, my advice, if you can't get a 5-star on release, don't save for the rerun, just move on and focus on the next team core. It's sad, I know, but you won't keep up with the power creep if you still pull for older units. And lastly, harsh truth number 5, it won't get any better. I did talk about the team compositions and the lunar reactions. Well, guess what? The Snezhnaya meta will be the same. It is called Stellar instead of Lunar, but everything else looks the same. Just look at Syndrone's kit, a 5-star who enables a new reaction, Stellar Conduct. Passive is basically the same as Flint's, and it does not take too much imagination to picture her future best teams. Maybe another 5-star support, maybe a 4-star, ideally at C6, perhaps at Tsaritsa. We'll see. Obviously, Stellar Conduct is only one reaction core. I expect more Cry reactions that will have Stellar in their name, but we'll see about that as well. Maybe something with Anemo, maybe something with Dendro. There are whispers, let's just say. With all that said, what should you do to catch up to the game? As of right now, there are 3 different meta cores in the game that are relevant. The Lunar core, the Stellar core, and the Hexerei core. Personally, I would not recommend the Hexerei core as of right now. Yes, Barca is a good DPS in his best teams and with his signature weapon, but it is a rather expensive team that does not get shilled too much in endgame. By that I mean that even though there are some bosses that favor a Hexerei team with Barca as a carry, there are more workarounds for these fights. The Glacial Wolf in the last Stygian Onslaught is one example. Flint's got through as well, so did Mavuika. Personally I cleared it with Mualani. A couple of patches ago we had the Mandragora. Again, Varka with Venti was a premium option, but by no means your only option. Therefore the Hexerei core is not recommended to catch up to the game. Next we have the Lunar core. Here things are slightly different. While Snezhnaya will come up with its own shill enemies and mechanics, the Lunar bosses are way harder to clear without 5 stars from nod-krai. And since those 5 stars will probably get reruns throughout the Cryo Nation as well, I do expect some of these shill bosses and mechanics to come back around. Fights like Knuckle Duckle, the Radiant Moon Gecko or the Lord of Hidden Depths are super tanky and super chill. It is very difficult to defeat them without Lunar Team, so if you want to be prepared for that, I would recommend to get one Lunar Team if you can. And that means you would want Columbina and one damage dealer plus one additional 5-star support. I would recommend Zibai as she is the strongest DPS in the game right now in her best team. Also, she can run Harbinger of Dawn as an amazing F2P option. Also, she is the least reliant on her 5-star support Linnea, so you could go for her to complete the team, but you could also opt for Ineffa as she will work with her as well and will cover a second lunar reaction core. Neither Bina, Ineffa, Linnea or Zibai need their 5-star weapon to tackle the fearless difficulty of Stygian, Abyss or Imaginarium Theater. So that is one core that I would recommend if you want to go for one lunar team. Flint's is not that strong without Ineffa, and Nefer is super reliant on Lauma. That's why these units are of less value in my opinion. And lastly, we have the Stellar Core, and this is in my opinion the highest priority right now to get through Snezhnaya. As I said, the core mechanics look rather similar to the Lunar meta, but instead of Hydro reactions, we will get Cryo reactions. Which reactions is not 100% certain yet, but with Sandrone we already know about Stellar Conduct. Personally, I assume that the other reactions will include elements that don't work well with Cryo yet or don't work with Cryo at all. Like Freeze and Melt are already pretty strong as they are, but Anemo, Geo and Dendro have little to no use in Cryo teams. Since Geo already got buffed with Lunar Crystallize, some form with Cryo Swirl and maybe a new reaction with Dendro, as we once had in Imaginarium Theater, would be my best bet. For the Stellar meta, I would get as many information as possible and choose one core to invest into. Regardless which one that is, you would want to get the Cryo Archon, the Tsaritsa. Every Archon has been broken at the time of the release, whether it was Nahida, Farina, Mawika or Columbina. You want to save for her for sure. And then you want to get one DPS, so either Sandrone or one of the ones that will be released in a later patch. And lastly, you want to get their premium 5-star support. Those 3 5-stars together will make one of the strongest teams of the next year in Genshin Impact. Should you have enough pulls to get more than 3 Snezhnaya units, I would focus on the supports for the other stellar reactions. Do not get multiple new shiny damage dealers, as they will most likely rely heavily on their supports and won't do too much for your account without them. So to sum it up, get one stellar core with the Archon, one DPS and their best in slot support. And if you want, you can get one lunar core with Columbina and Zibai, and then either Ineffa or Linnea. And if you have enough pulls, go for Snezhnaya stellar supports, but no more damage dealers for now. Stick to that plan, ignore old rerunning units and don't look back. This might not be the most romantic way of playing the game, but the quickest way to catch up with the meta and the endgame modes. Also, if you need a 5-star tier list, I made one on my account not too long ago, so the link is here. Overall, Genshin has changed quite a bit over the last year. Some changes are good, some are bad. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of shill bosses and restrictive team building, but it is what it is, and you should know about the state of the game before you throw your hard-earned primos at a new shiny character. Of course, meta is not everything, and you could also ignore all of this advice if you don't care about Abyss, IT or Stygian's higher difficulties. You might miss out on a few primos every patch, but it's not the end of the world. Genshin is a game and you should play it the way you want to. Whatever brings you the most joy is the right way to do it. Since my channel is all about F2P investment, guides and endgame clears, I'm naturally a bit of a meta slave, but that's also what I like about the game. Combat challenges and proving that you don't need to spend money to get the most out of your account. Anyway, this turned out to be quite a long video, but I hope it was useful for you and you now have a better idea of what the game looks like in 2026. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Content like this takes a really long time to make and I would really appreciate your support. Also, if you have any more questions about Genshin, your account, what to farm, etc., leave a comment down below and I will try to answer as many as possible. And with that, Thanks again for watching, have fun in Teyvat, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!